There's a piece of advice that every improviser has heard, or you're going to hear it if you haven't already. Get out of your head. The advice, it does make sense, but it skips over something that's pretty useful, something that we love to discuss on this channel quite a bit. What is your brain actually doing while you're in a scene? During the 2026 Winter Olympics, freestyle skier Eileen Gu did a series of interviews that went pretty viral. A reporter asked her, "Do you think before you speak?" It went on from there. It wasn't just that. It wasn't really rude. Anyways, instead of brushing it off, Eileen gave this really detailed breakdown of how she monitors her own thinking. She described herself as someone who spends a lot of time in her own head. She analyzes how she thinks, and she views this as a skill that she's built on purpose. What Eileen is describing is called metacognition. It's thinking about your thinking. And metacognition is very relevant to improv. So metacognition means that you have the ability to observe your own brain while it's working. In improv, this happens quite a bit, especially when you're newer to improv and you're trying to remember everything to do. Like, you're in a scene and part of your brain is doing the scene. You're listening, you're responding, you're building the reality. And another part of your brain is sort of watching what you're doing. Like, you might be kind of analyzing the scene, like, oh, this is going really well, or I don't know where this is going, or I should have said something different, or what's my character's deal again? So that second channel, the watching one, is always on, and it's kind of hard to turn it off. And getting out of your head implies that you should. And this is why that advice can potentially make things worse. You hear it, and then you start monitoring whether you're monitoring, which is kind of another layer in itself in the improv onion or improv brainception, I guess. So the improv goal of this is to make that monitoring channel useful and more automated over time, like autopilot. So instead of working against you, it works for you. Now, there's different ways to think about this. And the way I like to think about it is we can get parts of our brain to kind of speed up or automate, but there's still technicality there. So most of the thinking we want to do about those things is after the scene or the set, that watching part. You want to analyze your scene after it's done. So let's get into that. So useful self-monitoring. It sounds like noticing. All right. So my scene partner just kind of shifted their energy. Something changed. Or you might want to notice I'm talking a lot, so I want to give my scene partner more space. So these kinds of observations feed directly back into the scene. You notice something and it informs your next move. And over time, it just sort of starts to happen automatically. It keeps you moving in the scene. And that's sort of that autopilot part, or the part that you want to speed up so it becomes more and more automated. Now, unhelpful self-monitoring sounds kind of like evaluating in your head, like that was a really bad choice, or the audience isn't laughing, or I'm going to mess this next part up, or I just never get the game, or what should I do next? These sort of things, they pull you out of the scene because they're about you and your performance or your fear or your anxiety in that moment. They don't really give you anything to act on or do. They just sort of take up brain processing power. And that sort of halts you more. It's very stopping. So that's the part that we want to reduce or eliminate entirely. So the difference matters because both of these are sort of being in your head, but one in a way sort of makes you a better scene partner, even while you're learning to get to that autopilot phase. And it keeps you moving. And that all leads you to autopilot. It sort of gives you that confidence to do so. And the other one doesn't. It makes you stop. It makes you stop and think. So for neurodivergent brains, the monitoring channel can really be very loud. Whereas we have all these extra neurons and synapses that didn't get pruned in regions of the brain. So if you experience like a real hypervigilance or a real anxiety or nervous system that's just constantly scanning for those threats out there, that's that monitoring channel, and it kind of defaults to that evaluation mode. Like that's the biggest mode that you're getting in there instead of all the other improv stuff. It's looking specifically for danger and rejection and embarrassment and getting it wrong or being too much. And that's a lot to let go in order to get out of your head. But until then, it's helpful to know that this is a nervous system response. So your brain is doing what it was designed to do under a perceived threat situation. It's designed to look for those problems, or at least it's very adapted to monitor and scan for them. So the issue isn't that the scene is actually dangerous because it's make-em-ups, but your nervous system might not know that yet, especially if you've had some experiences in improv or other places that are similar to improv that taught your nervous system to really stay alert. So when you regulate your nervous system using whatever works for you, and I'll discuss that more in upcoming episodes, regulating can help this monitoring channel kind of change from that threat scanning to more of a noticing thing, which is faster. So same channel, but kind of different mode and different speed. You're still really self-aware, you're watching, but you're just watching for what's interesting. You're being more curious instead of focusing more on that threatening, wrong, critical type of voice. And also, while we're here on Neurodivergence, this week, I'm going to be releasing a podcast-only, audio-only episode about neurodivergence on team situations. It's for all types of brains. It's going to help you be a better community and a better team member. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the show notes to the podcast. Sign up for the podcast. You'll get that one sent to you. So the exercises. These exercises are going to help you practice self-monitoring. You're going to notice things about yourself in relation to your scene partner or your own brain. So your goal is to give that monitoring channel a really constructive thing to do during the scene. Something that makes noticing more of an active skill than like telling yourself or your students to just stop thinking. I mean, how you just stop thinking? But I got to think to do the scene, right? Not that helpful. Anyways, I'm going to call this one Ground My Brain. This exercise helps you notice when you're going into your head or otherwise sort of lose attention, and it brings you back into the present moment, into the scene. Now, there's a lot of versions of this one out in the improv spaces. This is just one version of a very common exercise. So you might have done something like this with someone before. They all work. So do it. If you already know it, do the one that you like best. So player one talks uninterrupted for a few minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes, about something that they're genuinely passionate about. If you have a special interest, this is for you. It can be anything. So just really info dump player one, just monologue like you love to. So player two just has to listen to that monologue, active listening, and that's it. But player two has to be honest. So when they notice their brain drifting, like thinking about something else they want to say or judging the story or thinking about where they're going to go after the practice, they have to make a motion, like a physical motion that player one can see. And this can be anything. Just flag down your scene partner in a way that you've agreed to before you start. And that scene partner is just going to stop and say their name, like, "Hi, Jen." And player two says, "Hey," and the monologue continues. That's it. So you're just learning to notice that drift. And when they do that quick little engagement, it brings them back to the present, brings them back into the scene. So the solo practice for this. In this exercise, you're practicing noticing observations versus those evaluations in your own internal commentary. So you're going to be catching yourself when you shift from something curious, like, "Oh, that's interesting," to "that was bad." And you're going to redirect that voice. So you're building this habit of useful monitoring outside the pressure of performing. So choose something to watch, some kind of media. Think about what is your biggest personal challenge. Like, how challenged are you with your internal commentary in different scenarios? So you could choose something that's not very dynamic, like going into nature or watching your cat sleep in the sun. You could choose a recorded scene from your team, or you could watch a show like Taskmasters. Whatever is most difficult for you, sort of move up to that one. Start with something less challenging. challenging. It really depends on your own brain. So the goal is to simply observe your internal commentary, catch yourself, whatever mode you're in, that's interesting versus that sucks, curiosity versus judgment. And if you want, you can kind of record it down, see how many times you drift in a set period of time, and you might be surprising yourself. So another exercise you could do is inspired by Will Hines' exercise, and this is to just let go of planning. So you can do this one on your own, or you can do this one with a scene partner. And what you're going to do before you do either a monologue if you're on your own or before a scene with your scene partner is just wait. Just be quiet and notice your head trying to start planning that scene start or that monologue start and see how long it takes for your brain to give up. Is it like 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 90 seconds? So if you're on your own, you can start a timer and then take a quick look when you're ready to go, when your brain clears. Or if you are being coached, your coach can set a time and wait. That's all I have for this one. I'm deHaan, and this is your Improv Brain. Thanks for watching.